and welcome back to LCS NACL. Week 2 of playoffs are here. So excited, though today is actually kind of a sad day as we're going to be saying goodbyes to some teams. So, all right, maybe I'll hold off on that excited energy. I'm Sierra. Joining me today is Joshi and Gabby. Both of you, how are you feeling? That was a long night last night for LCS.
Oh yeah. Joshi and I were chilling.
We were chilling. We were casting some good games, and then the games just kept going. We had 8, I think, on the LCS broadcast yesterday. I know, Gabby, you did the last 3 of them, so you got to sit around for a long time, but you got to close us out on the day.
I was happy they were great games, though. Those were some good tiebreakers to definitely get us hyped going into playoffs. I think a little preview of some of the top contention between Cloud9 and FlyQuest, and then, CLG and 100 Thieves proving their marks in different ways. I think we're still excited about both of those squads. So, yeah, but I am also stoked for some NACL today because, we're already in elimination territory when it comes into this league, which is just absolutely wild.
I mean, y'all live in the dream, too. You have a full night of League. You get to wake up. You get to do it all over again. For anyone who might have missed week 1 of our playoffs, though, it is time to catch up a little bit with our NA talent update.
Welcome back to another NA Talent Update Playoffs Edition. Now, I know we said goodbye for a few weeks. We had Kangas take over. And, well, there are a couple others that we have forgotten about. Can't forget about this part of North America. So, want to welcome back the Canadians.
Thanks, Cubby. Up here in Canada, we don't tend to have the greatest luck when it comes to our playoffs. Good thing we're esports casters and have lots of great Canadian talents in the NACL.
Cloud9 Challengers was our top seed going into playoffs, and oh, look at that, eh? A Canadian jungler. You can't tell me Tomio being on this team is just a coinkydink.
Oh, what about our top provisional team? Cincinnati may be in Ohio, but the fear comes from Faisal. Not every day a rookie steps into this league and does this well, eh?
Dignitas has been one of our top teams, all split, and is looking great so far in playoffs. And to no surprise, check out that bot lane, Sierra. 2 Canadians, Spawn and Diamond, a fantastic duo.
They might have 2 Canadians, but oh, look at FlyQuest Challengers. They have 3 Canadians. That might be the most of any squad.
Oh wait, AoE Gold has 3 as well, and these 2 teams are playing each other soon. That's gonna be a crazy Canadian showdown. I can't wait to watch it.
Oh wait, deep down, these teams are in the lower bracket. One of them's getting eliminated.
Oh, sorry.
With playoffs in full swing, we have said goodbye to 4 of our teams in the North American Challengers League. So, to get a full diagnostic on what went wrong and what to see from them later, we picked up Steve the Recruiter to get his thoughts.
All right, end of the split. We got some performance reviews to get through, so let's get started. It's no lie CLG Faith had a rough split. With a total of 3 roster changes across 3 different roles, the team just wasn't able to hit their stride by playoffs. That said, in the lower bracket, they picked up a win against Wildcard, the 2nd best provisional team. But they still have a target on their back for relegations. I look forward to the continued growth of NXI on his return to competitive and for newcomers like Sketch and Aaron. Oh, Fly Fam, the team that could have ended with way more wins, but whose lack of experience held them back. But don't hold that against them, because a team with semi-pro rookies in both solo lanes and 3 different junglers this split managed to win more than a few early games. I'll be watching players like Lunacia and Hyper closely in relegations, as I expect scouts on Challengers teams will too. We were all excited when after the NACL tryouts, TL announced that they were also building the TL First team. With 1 roster swap midway through the split, I feel that despite their lack of wins, Aspect in particular showed solid development. They were never expected to be contenders, but they showed promise of bigger things to come. Also, Sturdy still got it. Unfortunately, EG just never got their full roster together due to visa issues, and despite Ryoma joining the team mid-split and performing well, they couldn't end the season strong. Also, the meta never suited their star jungler Shaden, but from what we've heard behind the scenes, the growth of these players this split was more about establishing a positive team environment. Give them another split, and I would not be surprised to see them top 6 in summer, especially if King is able to make it.
His name's Neo because he might be the chosen one. A fight that started with an engage on him, ended with his own pentakill, and that is our big booty of the week.
Yar! Welcome into the big booty of the week. And for this week's booty, we got a fine coffer to offer. Batten down the hatches, me laddies, there be a storm a-brewin'. These old souls be locked in combat with lily-livered privateers, but the best thing to sink a ship is a spot of rum and a fire in the hole! And with our plunder, our buccaneer swagger with 3 sheets to the wind, blew in the gills with our victory. But ahoy! What's this? There still be 1 shark bait left standing! Only prompter to let old Captain Neil give 1 more to Davy Jones! And let that be a lesson to you landlubbers. A blunderbuss full of feathers still be a blunderbuss full of something. That's our big booty of the week.
That's been it for this week's NA Talent Update. Thanks to all my friends who helped on out. Best of luck to our Challengers teams as they run through that playoff bracket. That's it for us this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, may your week be filled with positive gaming experiences.
I want a blunderbuss.
You want what?
Those are those old-timey guns with, like, the trumpet horns at the end.
All right.
I mean, he has one. I mean, shooting feathers out of it? I don't know. That just sounds like fun.
I'm a fan of having unique items around apartments
Weapons.
and homes. Yeah, weapons.
All right, okay, before anybody gets in trouble on this one, we're just going to keep it moving right along. And there's a lot of positive things that we get to have on this channel, but of course, not everything can be gold and roses. We have to have a moment of silence for our eliminated teams here in our playoffs.
Yeah.
Moment's over. It's sad. They gotta go, but Joshi is what it is.
Joshi was over that immediately.
I was over it pretty quick.
Why?
Yeah. I mean, it's not terribly surprising, unfortunately, that some of these teams have been eliminated with, 3 of the provisional teams that were struggling. And Evil Geniuses, unfortunately, never were able to bring in their expected starting AD carry king. And as they do fall out relatively early, I think it's a little bit surprising to see that a team with both Ryoma and Shaden on it, unfortunately, was not able to pull out a couple more wins this season.
Yes, there's always going to be a bit more pressure on those early teams that fall out because you're very much fresh on the expectations based on performance in the regular seasons and the system around them. So really excited to see who ends up pushing past today's part of the bracket, but we'll also be shedding tears for the teams to come.
And when I look at the eliminated teams, it's like, wait a second. One of these things is not quite like the other, but sometimes it's how the bracket shakes up. So we'll have to see next time around Evil Geniuses how they'll be able to make things come together. Normally, for our next little part of the stream, this is something we like to do at the end, but so it goes a little chaotic. So you guys know what we have up next? It's our Samsung SSD Fast 5.
The Samsung SSD Fast 5?
That's right. The Samsung SSD Fast 5 coming at you live here, already coming through. And we see almost every single time, the most interesting thing to me is always the AD carries with their first kills, because usually it happens around like the 3-ish minute mark when you start looking at junglers coming down for that early gank. But this time, you always have some of those shenaniganeries that Magical always loves, with Array getting their first one before the wave even crashed.
A player that we will get to watch today in the Golden Guardians Challengers matchup against Immortals Progressive Challengers. And Array is somebody that came in with, expectations based on the first split, this being the second split within the NACL. So this is another way to start to make that name continuous and really dominating the early game.
Array's got to get that first kill today and a whole lot more, because sure, that's going to be a match we see going on for today. But of course, we're in the lower part of our playoff bracket for that team. So at this point, it's the cliche, but back against the wall for any of them trying to fight their way on through. What I think, though, before we get into the nitty-gritty of our lower bracket teams, though, looking at our top teams goes back to one of those things is not like the others, Joshi. Fears Cincinnati Fear. Look at them go.
Yeah, they've been doing super well so far. A lot of people were questioning whether they were actually going to have what it takes based on the strength of schedule that they had in the first half of the season. I was definitely one of those. I did not expect Fear to be doing this well, but they have proved all of the haters wrong, and have really showcased what it means for a provisional team to have that power of friendship to come together and actually have some opportunities to play at this level with some of our best teams.
Yes, and I mean, facing off, even just looking at their previous series against Golden Guardians, where they did lose a game, but came back in full force. And when you're gaining that confidence from taking down Challenger Squad, when there's so much of the discussion from many of the players directly talking about how equal the talent is across all of the teams within this league, what a way to make a statement before going into a very difficult matchup against Cloud9 Challengers.
Well, best of luck going on to those matches, because they're definitely going to be bangers. But we're going to be looking more at the bottom half. Of course, they've already taken a loss, so this is going to be one more loss and you're out. And already there's a couple of names that, at first glance, I'm really surprised to see them down there. Of course, most teams can't win everyone, but TLC and CLG, I mean, that's the lower bracket match we have.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked us last year, this was absolutely going to be one of the sets of teams that were going to be looking towards the finals, actually. And CLG is still one of those teams that all the other teams have been saying are one of the best teams in scrims, but haven't been able to transit it, whereas the Team Liquid Challengers, two-time defending champs, have not been living up to that same kind of level, though admittedly, it is still only Bradley who's coming back from that roster.
We'll start things off. It will be that Immortals and Golden Guardians that we touched upon. This one should be a lot of fun. Both teams a little bit of struggles, but still a lot of great things to be able to say about them.
And I think it's because of the mixture of talent on the squads as well. You have some veterans, people like Joey in the support position that have been around, really making that name as a playmaker on whatever squad he is servicing. And then on Golden Guardians, newer faces like Young, who has been proving that he can take that aggressive line of action, playing those melees to really make an impact in the game. So whenever you get the kind of that mixture on the teams, there's a lot of things that you can look forward to.
I mean, the other player that I kind of want to really look at, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is the fact that he's going up against Yusui in the mid lane, who is definitely a more veteran player who we haven't seen in a while. We'll see if they still have what it takes to bring it to the forefront, because I feel like Young benefited so much from his brief time in the LCS.
Immortals, though, it's still that rough spot, the fact that they had that roster change so late going on. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes LCS calls, but Yusui had some really positive things to say just about joining in, that was feeling good coming into this role, a bit nervous with playoffs, a little bit of pressure, and talking too about the fact that Immortals have had a little bit of inconsistency, but talking about a really high ceiling with this roster going on forward. A lot of ties going on, but ties against top teams and against low teams. So in his words, if they can just get that consistency under wraps and play towards the high end, well, there could be some great things and they could go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is very funny is the fact that with Yusui, they technically did better against FlyFam than they did with Balulu, because they traded games when Balulu was playing, but they did get a 2-0 coming through when Yusui did actually join. And as we were talking about, this is a mixture of a bit more veteran players and a lot of players who we can kind of look at as journeymen who have been in the Academy season or the Academy ecosystem for a little while. Chad, Wixie, and Joey, these guys have all had opportunities to showcase what they can do, but despite some of the experience that we've had, we have to look at this Immortals Progressive Challenger team as a team that has not necessarily lived up to all the hype that we had going into this team.
I'm excited for this match, though, because we talked about the positive things that Yusui had to say in the interview. There was one little note, though, looking forward to this series ahead that wasn't the most positive.
I've beaten Prismal before in playoffs, and I'll do it again.
Short, sweet, expectations of what.
I thought it was ruder based on what you guys were saying.
I know, I was all geared up, like what was coming at us?
If it was any ruder than that, I don't think that they would like it being aired once, let alone a second time, okay?
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Also coming onto the team instantly, like, yeah, no, I've beaten this player. I'm going to take him down again. I mean, hey, respect that sort of confidence. Looking forward at Golden Guardians now. Excited to see what they bring to the series.
Yeah. I mean, Golden Guardians have been one of the teams that I feel like every single year, no matter whether it's in the LCS or the Challengers League or Academy, it's always a team that kind of goes underneath most people's radar, right? You don't tend to think about Golden Guardians all that much, and this has definitely been a team that has deserved respect. While they haven't made it to the top side of the bracket so far, these guys have been doing quite well, and even players like Concept, who we were not super hot on last year, has really showcased a lot of growth coming into 2023, and players that we knew were going to be strong like Rosethorn and Prismal are already looking super good across all of their games thus far.
Yep. And even with that considered, looking at the growth of players like Concept, you still get the joy of seeing a Singed thrown in there and a lot of that uniqueness of the pool that he brings to the table. But you always got to give props to Rosethorn, who has created this identity around the strength of his early game. Well, you know, have you never in the jungle had to die a little bit?
I've never died in a game of League of Legends. Ever. Probably because I barely played the jungle, but
well then,
neither do I. I queue with junglers, but I stick elsewhere.
Well, we have to remember that if we put Rafa in any position other than the jungler, it's going to be a much harder game. So we make sure to keep him in the playpen. But it is a spot.
That's just
we all have somebody
There's
like
somebody that won't leave the jungle.
Yeah, and there are other types. I was banned for playing jungle for like 2 years with my friend group for a long time. They did not want me jungling. But Rosethorn has been one of the players that has been very exciting. We knew that they were super aggressive with their time on CLG before. They were dropped from that team, was put down into the semi-pro circuit, and now is back and has been having a lot of success with Golden Guardians.
And hey, maybe, Yoshi, you're not the person that we want in jungle, but for our teams, like, I'd be content with either of these junglers on our squad. And of course, if we're going to talk about Rosethorn, well, then we have to talk a little bit about Chad, too.
Chad has been one of these players I've known for a long time, even though I didn't realize how long I'd actually known them, because they were playing in some esports arena events back in the day, and I knew them originally as a Kha'Zix player, but ever since then we have had Chad really showcase, one, what it means to be a good trash talker, but also what it means to try and back those kind of things up. He has been a player who's constantly looking for all these different angles and was well known as one of our early invaders last season, and now as we start to look at him, it has been a spot where both of these guys, we know that they are very decent junglers. We had an internal conversation where we said they're probably like tier 2 junglers in the league, but that's still a spot where they're both trying to prove that they belong in that tier 1, that we need to start looking at these guys as potential most valuable prospects.
Well, hopefully we get to see a lot more of one of them going on forward, because this is Elimination Game 1 on the horizon, and the draft is ready, so I'll see you two on the other side.
Hi, Sierra.
Game 1, baby. Immortals versus Golden Guardians. One of the teams will be walking away from the series with their hopes still high. The other one with an end and an early start to their preparation for the next time the circuit's kicking up.
True. You know, hopefully not too long a vacation for whoever stops going back, because we still need to see growth. We are still only in the spring split. You have a whole nother split to try and prove to the scouts that you belong to play at the next level. And as we kind of get into it, I think it would be disingenuous to say anything otherwise. This should be a series where we should be looking at Golden Guardians to have an advantage going in. They were a team that has had a lot of success during the regular season, and Immortals, they're playing with Yusui, who, while the team has been strong for the team, is still somebody coming in brand new, and with everything that Balulu has done for the LCS roster, it's hard to live up to those high of expectations.
That's probably one of the biggest things to note with that switch. It's not just coming in for a strong mid laner that was ready to go up to the LCS. It's someone on which the team relied upon to be able to be that carry and be that leading force and the threat when going into the enemy squad. So you got to give props to Yusui for coming in at the time that they did and really trying to keep Immortals on decent footing. Because as you mentioned, I mean, Golden Guardians, they had that success, 5th seed, 19 and 11 when finishing off regular, and Immortals, they kept that at 500 for a while. You know, they were 13 and 13 and then ended 15 and 15 in that 10th spot. So now you just need to edge a little bit past that to be able to continue progressing down the bracket. But right now, we're talking about those junglers and how important they are to the rest of the squad. We've got a Graves locked in as first for Immortals, and then Golden Guardians responding with the Jinx.
Yeah, a very bold early pick coming through from Immortals. It's the kind of thing where you would see Graves pick this early, especially when it's flexible, but we are very confident at this point it is going to be going over to Chad. It has been a specialty pick of his for such a long time, but it means that some of the powerful bottom lanes, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for Golden Guardians to pick what they want, and they have selected that they do want Jinx. This has typically been paired with Thresh, that we have been seeing the re-rise of Tom Kench coming through as well on the LCS.
Anyone that can really protect that carry when you're bringing picks like Jinx back into the meta. But Thresh is always a special for anyone that's good on engaged champs. So whenever the meta starts shifting in that direction, you best believe you're going to see him locked in a lot in drafts. But right now, going in a bit of a different hook direction for the side of IMT.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the Aphalos come through. It's like, oh yeah, this is almost definitely going to be paired with Thresh. But no, I mean, they saw that it was left open. They're going to be going for the Blitzcrank, which has been something that Immortals have been experimenting with quite a bit more recently. But I'm honestly fascinated. Now it looks as though Immortals, it's one of these things, you pick Blitzcrank into Thresh a lot of the times in order to shut it down whenever they go for the death sentences. But Brismal has been a player that has been willing to play all kinds of things, has been a major playmaker, and it feels almost like a bit of a rock, paper, scissors, right? Between the three hook champions. You have the Thresh, the Blitzcrank, and the Nautilus. Blitzcrank and Nautilus are both fairly decent against Thresh, but Nautilus also is just totally okay playing up against the Blitzcrank as well. And so Immortals, they have to see what it is that they want to try and put Prismal on.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at what Prismal has brought to the table throughout the course of this split, has definitely been developing, considering this is, I think, the second split within the role swap. So I love when you're at this point in a career of a player that is still developing in the role, because you never know, in playoff time, they often bring out some unique, fresh looks for themselves. But I think when you know that hook is going to be on the opposite side, you are worried about taking something that is an easy target and more squishy, so kind of dictating a little bit of the pace there and how Golden Guardians will want to respond. And seeing the changes just across the role in general, you know, Heimerdinger being something that's back to being banned, and that shift has been an interesting one.
Yeah. And I also really like what we are seeing from Prismal, right? Because they were always the main character of every team that they were playing on as the AD carry. Not a lot has changed, but since they moved to support, but as the Braum does come through, there's a lot of magic damage actually on the side of Golden Guardians. They have so much magic damage between the Maokai, Sylas, and even the Braum. It's going to be a little bit difficult for Golden Guardians to itemize effectively because of the amount of physical damage that this Jinx is going to do. But IMT says that looks like they're not super worried about the strong front line that Golden Guardians are building up for themselves. They are really building up a lot of tools to just win some of these front-to-back team fights pretty directly, and they have a lot of tools to burst out a single member between the Equalizer and everything that Graves is able to do. It has been a traditional composition where you just blow up one person, win the fight afterwards, because you just have so much chase potential with all the range and movement speed tools that Aphalos does have in his kit.
And you best believe they're probably going to be trying to go after that Jinx to blow up, but a bit that they're going to have to break past with the Braum coming out, with the Maokai, and now looking to unlock the mid lane for IMT with the Rise pick.
Yeah. I mean, lots of tools to start looking for some of these big fights here as well. The one thing I am worried is now that they feel like they're overloading on magic damage themselves, it means that this Maokai gets a lot of benefits, and so does the Scion, because Scion just building straight resistances gets so much free health from the kit that it makes it really difficult for IMT to try and take them down. They have a lot of damage, but they are also putting a lot of pressure here onto Joey to land some good hooks. He doesn't have a whole lot of great targets. You really are only looking at Young and Array to actually pick somebody off before these fights start. Everyone else is like, okay, cool, you engaged for me. Great, let's get this party started. And so IMT, they're finding themselves in an interesting position, and I definitely feel as though watching how Wixie and Joey are going to be playing out this bottom lane, if they can find an advantage there, is going to tell us a lot about the success for IMT.
So IMT, with that damage that they've brought through, with that potential to invest in that bot lane to have an impact against Golden Guardians, but a lot of the resilience over on the Golden Guardian side because of the way that they drafted. What is your overall evaluation going into this? Which team you lean in towards?
Oh, I'm definitely leaning towards Golden Guardians for this one. It feels as though their composition is definitely easier to pilot. It's going to be front to back, and typically the way to break some of these front to backs is you look for strong side laning, but ADD on the Rumble is okay at that, and Yusui has some tools, but it feels like they're going to get outside laned by Young later on in the game, and so IMT, they're really going to have to find some inventive early games, and Chad is known for that. He was one of our best invaders, and it's part of why Golden Guardians are already starting to put down some of these wards and counter-stacking, expecting an invade.
I think there is very much an awareness on both sides of this matchup and how these junglers like to play, how they can impact that early game. And when you see Chad getting locked in on this Graves, you know there's some potential to attempt to give him those advantages. So Golden Guardians with that response, now with no shenanigans right off the bat, they decide to have Array and Prismal start making their way towards their traditional lane start.
Yeah, I think it's super funny here that IMT are also pinging towards their own red buff, saying, hey, well, we didn't protect our Tri-Brush. It is Braum. They can go for an early invade of their own. But we both know that, well, we know they didn't know that there's no opportunity. There was no actual gank that does come through. And so I am a little bit curious. We have been seeing some very inventive things. I think 100 Thieves yesterday on the LCS broadcast did have one of the best early cheese strats coming through from Asylum, a concept not going to be going for one of their own. And if any team was going to do it, I was kind of expecting it to be Golden Guardians, because it is concept. He does love all these cheesy ways to play through the top lane, but just going to be going with a bit of a leash. Both junglers starting the same size of the map, and will likely be looking for a potential 3v3 towards the bottom side in about a minute.
Which works very much into what you were laying out during draft, Joshi, about how is this bot lane going to play out? Are Wixie and Joey going to grant themselves some advantages, really utilize the pressure of the hook that Blitzcrank provides, or can Golden Guardians offset that to continue building up, getting tankier, getting more protective of Array as the time goes on? But here, early on in the game, nothing to be spilled in blood just yet, as the junglers are still making their ways through.
Yeah, but it is an interesting spot, right, as Rosethorn is going to be clearing up the Krugs, has a longer way to go towards the bottom side, and we'll have to at some point flip all of their camps in order to make sure that they are farming efficiently later on. But for now, it is going to be Chad. The jungle has had a whole lot more gold put back into it, Gabby, recently. A whole extra 60 gold every single jungle clear. That will encourage some of this more heavy farming, and you can start looking to invade the other side. But very quiet. There's a hook.
Ooh, there lands from Joey, ushers the flash away and heal from Array. So summoners down on the Golden Guardian side, something that maybe Chad will pick up on in the minutes to come.
Yeah, and even bigger than the flash, I feel, is the fact that Wixie and Joey now get a perfect spot to actually try and freeze this wave, deny Array and Prismal a ton of gold and experience, and already we're seeing a spot where Chad, comes down but will not have anything to actually go for. Just going to be looking for a potential Scuttle Crab take, and his bottom lane was such a beautiful freeze, knows that there's no way for Array and Prismal to actually contest it. Chad will get, at least the first Scuttle Crab, but Rosethorn might actually try and contest. That's a dangerous one to go for.
Chad now, because he has a bit of that opening in his schedule with the way that bot lane played out, wanted to go.
Yeah, we can pencil it in.
Yeah, let me see what else I can do right now. Maybe go throw across some vision and get an idea of where Rosethorn is hanging around. So with that knowledge, difficult if Rosethorn was looking for any angle to
another one
happen. Hooks are just landing and good now. So you are on the Braum on Prismal's side, so right now it is much more about that harass and keeping that pressure up, not necessarily the kill threat just yet, but eventually that opportunity will stack up.
Yeah, at the same time, we are still seeing Chad not worried about these ganks, instead focused on trying to farm, take away as many camps as possible. He's done a good job so far, picking up both Scuttle Crabs and another hook from Joey.
The combo just keeps on hitting, and the autos from Wixie to make sure to punish that positioning, and Prismal having a difficult time against the strong blitz play of Joey thus far. And Chad, all the while, because of that pressure down on the bot side, can continue making rotations through the jungle here with ADD on Rosethorn. Blast Cone already utilized, but of course you've got the saplings to try and discourage any further follow-up, but still the harassing going in Immortals' favor.
Yeah, I mean, it feels as though IMT have had a plan of how to play out this Graves early game. They know that it has been this Maokai where they can just play all they want. They have so much priority up on the top side. They have the ability to get priority in the bottom lane and in the mid lane as well. IMT already taking a ton of early pressure and starting to put Rosethorn behind. This was not a big deal on previous patches, but on 13-5, it's actually getting a big lead coming out for Chad.
Yeah, and lead for Chad when he's playing the Graves is something that you can feel the effect of once he gets an opportunity to have an impact on these lanes, where biding his time all the while. The response from Golden Guardians is focusing up on this dragon. You see Wixie and Joey making their way through the river, though, and let's have to be careful. Rosethorn going on in the follow-up from Prismal, but the knock up in response. Over the wall, Array goes, but it is a double kill on the team side for Immortals. Wixie hungry for it. Cannot get the last hit. Joey trying to zone off on the opposite side of the turret as well.
Oh no, you got to see a little bit of it as he flashes over the wall. It's why you got to be careful with using the attack move, because he attacks the ward because it was still visible, loses out in the last bit of movement, but it is still going to be a huge lead going over towards Immortals. Chad coming through so strong, taking away the dragon, finding the fight as well. Kill goes to Chad, kill goes to Wixie. You can't complain about that at all for IMT, and already it feels as though Golden Guardians, we praise a fair amount for their ability to just look for a ton of these fights. They play some of the fastest of any team that we have in the league, and this is a great example. They try and go for Joey instantly, but Rosethorn, so greedy with his Bramble Smash, trying to knock Joey back towards the rest of the team, ends up giving out too much time. Joey's able to walk away.
I did get a little scared here when Wixie wasn't able to get the kill that he was gonna keep committing and then break into that advantage a little bit. So I'm glad that the choice to back off there was good. And yeah, because of the pressure, I feel like the blitz play here, you always see the effect of, even when the abilities aren't landing just yet, because the immediate rotation from Wixie and Joey, Rosethorn felt like he had to make the play. As Golden Guardians try to make the play onto Wixie, but Joey just coming over from the riverside gets the good knock to disrupt the damage.
There's a hook.
Looking for it. Tried to predict, but a sidestep from Array.
Yeah, Chad going for a bit more of an invade, but both Concept and ADD on the way.
Oh, Concept trying to smash on forward, knock up, and the Q comes down, the equalizer for that burn. Young getting the kill onto Chad, but it's both junglers down. Another kill to follow. Two traded on either side on the top side of the map.
Honestly, pretty good for Golden Guardians, trying to turn that one around. 2 kills going over to Young. We were looking at a bit of an issue coming through for Golden Guardians, but whether or not they could deal with the side lanes. We said that Young was going to be favored with all the strength that we were already seeing from IMT. It might not have come to fruition. It's definitely going to be happening now. And so Golden Guardians, they go for all of these fights. They commit to that one. They lock down Chad. They get a little bit more money. At the same time, we're still looking at a pretty significant gold advantage going over to the other side. And as we take another look at this one, big thing here, I'm actually curious what Young takes. He chooses to take the collateral damage. The equalizer here, I think, probably could have taken this from a 2-for-2 into absolutely winning the fight, picking up Yusui at the same time. But still, double kill goes over to Young. We will see whether or not the speed with which they're playing comes back to bite them later.
And speaking of the equalizer, that is a good call out of an ultimate that you very much have to look at Young making full use of, because look at how those fights are executed in the jungle and how effective an ultimate like that is because of the area that it covers, and really forcing the enemy team to tunnel in a specific direction or fall to the burn damage. So ADD definitely wants to make use of that for Immortals side, but Young also looking to do the same later on.
So we'll pay more attention to what it is that Young is going to be able to contribute to some of these fights. But IMT, they're another team that's been playing super fast. ADD goes over towards the Rift Herald, sees like, oh, okay, there's a ward here. It's time for us to back away. But we've been very critical. I've been super critical of ADD so far throughout the course of the regular season. It has been making a lot of plays that we were not expecting from somebody who had recently been to Worlds, but so far having a good impact on this game, trying to find opportunities to move with the rest of the team, and has helped Chad out quite a bit, going for some of these top side invades. But now, Golden Guardians, they're going to be the ones who are actually starting up the Rift Herald, but they did it on Vision effectively, and IMT is here to fight.
Consistently across these neutral objectives, IMT rotate pretty swiftly. And Rosethorn still committing on the Rift Herald currently. Concept ready to rotate down, but ADD is also in the vicinity. Ultimate coming through from Rosethorn. GG trying to look for the engage. Knocked up on the entry. Concept making the way in the Glacial Fissure. Thrown across.
Oh,
Wixie gets the kill onto Rosethorn. Equalizer response here. Flash over the wall. Prismal does escape, but no objective taken just yet. Just more lives lost for Golden Guardians, and Immortals winning out on the play.
Great punishes coming in from IMT over and over again. They're constantly looking for what Golden Guardians have been trying to do. They play so fast, they will take every skirmish that is afforded to them. And IMT, they just come through every single time with more members. Wixie coming up to make sure that his team can actually pick up the Rift Herald, giving them even more gold picking up this Rift Herald as well. And Yusui teleporting down means that they lose almost nothing down here on the bottom side. So Golden Guardians, I mean, for a team that's been playing so fast versus IMT, who also plays so fast, it feels very similar. Golden Guardians were punishing Fear last week for all of their early setups in Game 1, but this time it's turned on its head as IMT is doing it to Golden Guardians.
So what do you think is the biggest difference maker in why Golden Guardians isn't able to have that same impact early? Is it just because Immortals are playing it very well, especially with the lane dominance I think that Wixie and Joey were executing on? Or is there something lacking on the side of Golden Guardians in this game thus far compared to previous performances?
I mean, part of it is it feels disrespectful of the Graves, right? There's so much early power that has been coming out from Chad in this game that Rosethorn has not been able to match, having been put on this Maokai. But it's also, I mean, Joey being a huge threat on this Blitzcrank, right? Creating a lot of pressure down in the bottom lane and allowing IMT to rotate Wixie up to the Rift Herald in the first place. Just having more members, having more HP, and getting their backs off in better ways have really allowed IMT to kind of snowball this early game out. And I guarantee most teams just don't contest this, but Golden Guardians are going to think about it. They're probably going to show up to at least try and harass some of these players. And as soon as I say that, like Rosethorn, he's moving into the river, but it's too late.
Already taken for the side of Immortals, 2 dragons to their name, and the later rotation from Rosethorn and Golden Guardians. They are not able to take advantages elsewhere, not going to contest in this situation. And I think it's partly because of how the past fights have went for them. Some of the lockdown on IMT has really been great in countering what has been Rosethorn trying to get the play started. Yeah. But now Golden Guardians, 12.5 minutes into the game, 2.5k gold down against Immortals here, looking to find some kind of angle through which they can stabilize.
Yeah. I'm honestly, again, Gabby, a little bit surprised that we are seeing this Maokai come through for Rosethorn. It's not something where you typically think of Rosethorn as this kind of player, but here's an engage coming through from Concept, but they're so far back.
Yeah, already by the tier 2, Immortals don't even look like they flinched for a moment.
Yeah. I don't know what was said, but I did hear the chat. Rosethorn?
Rosethorn taking a lot of damage from my Vigil too. The burn, the heal used to try and save the jungler here. It is enough as Golden Guardians attempt to put more distance between themselves and the encroaching IMT. All the while it was Golden Guardians coming through for the play.
Joey!
Hooks on hooks. Joey making the plays. Eats up an exhaust in the process. It ain't gonna be enough to save Golden Guardians, but looking to try and get an advantage across the mid lane. Yusui taking a decent amount of damage. Ultimate thrown out by Rosethorn before eliminated, and Joey gets the burn. Young finding a bit of revenge for the rest of the squad. Lashes on in with the chains, but Yusui now safe.
Wow, everybody running back and forth. The bot lane turret falls. The Rift Herald is dropped. That's a ton of money going down to Wixie. But Joey landing a hook after a hook after a hook, creating so much pressure here for IMT. And Golden Guardians have not had an answer to this at all as another Rift Herald crash goes off into the second turret bottom lane. I'm starting to look at almost at this point, Gabby's like, how does Golden Guardians really come back from this game? And it's like, you gotta hope for some miracles, right? You gotta burst one single person out, but they don't have the damage for that. They don't have the way to get Array online to actually start popping off in any of these team fights, and I feel like that's the only way that happens. And I think we really need to look for at least 3 items on Golden Guardians for that to really come through, and they're not even on 1.
Yeah, and I think that's why when there's over 2 minutes until the next dragon spawns, Golden Guardians will have to make the choice. Are they going to contest that or give over that opportunity? But taking a look back at the last dragon and where it put them.
Yeah, I mean, this is just really good read from Joey as well, right? Knowing that people are going to have to walk through that corridor. And honestly, the immediate fight that comes through afterwards, Yusui is like, oh, hey, Rosethorn's not allowed to be here. A little bit bold, jumping over the wall, but so confident that his team is on the way to actually help them out. Does mean that Yusui feels that they can be a little bit more aggressive here. But Chad also, they dropped the Rift Herald down towards the bottom side, also ran around to make sure that Yusui was never under threat. And now, you get to see, I mean, the same kind of flipping of the action. IMT sending multiple people up top side.
Yeah, they want concept. They want concept bad. Equalizer down across the wave as well. Flash expelled and still getting the burn. Even a Scion will eventually fall when there's enough around to execute. Kill credit going to ADD.
Yeah. Funny concept trying to take the wave away from the turret, as well as Young will be able to recoup a little bit of money. But I mean, even James Riot himself is saying, hey, look, Golden Guardians, you're in a really tough spot, giving a small bounty down on the far side, but very quickly equalizes. Another turret falls here on the Golden Guardian side of the map. And wow, I mean, Gabby, just like the confidence with which IMT have been playing, this is something that is a little bit different from the way that they were playing with Balulu. So much of their early game plans were, I don't want to say like passive, but very defensive when they were playing with their previous mid laner. It feels as though Yusui has given them somebody to kind of rally around and give them early ideas on how to actually play this out. Very similar to how these guys were playing last year during Proving Grounds.
It's proof of why when a switch in roster happens, you have to look not just at the players specifically that were swapped out, but how it impacts the overall identity of the team. And the mid lane position being so core to that identity, right? There are some that like to carry, some that really want to be able to bully in lane and bring that power later, others that are more facilitative, that supportive style. And that impacts the way the jungler plays with the mid lane and the way the rest of the team does, as Joey is one person relying on the mid laner and beyond to keep following up on these hooks that have been good. Equalizer again to Burm into golden stasis we go, and the glacial fissure gets a lock onto a couple of them, maybe a chance to turn it around. Kill onto Yusui means it's the 1-for-1 so far. Cannot connect. Young unable to go in off of that attempt, so Immortals want to throw this damage right back over to Concept. Breezing on out of there. Chad going in to try and finish off. Gets exhausted on the entry, but Prismal eliminated. Continuation of the
another one.
Joey hooks on hooks on hooks, but Rosethorn walking it back out towards red. Whoo! It was getting scrappy across that mid lane.
What a bloody fight, Gabby. Back and forth and back and forth. But IMT at the end of it, you always got to look at what happens after the fight. Who is still on the map? Who gets anything? IMT open up the middle of the map, and Rosethorn, ooh, I think he hopped over with a blast cone, so IMT don't know that he's on this. Golden Guardians should at least get something in exchange for that turret, but they will be losing a ton of positioning. Rosethorn will not be able to set up any of these saplings for the dragon that IMT are already barreling towards.
And teleports coming in to do so, but how it all began with the Joey hook.
Yeah, it always does. An ADD with a great equalizer. The root locking Prismal down on top of it. And I love this. Chad goes in, turns it sideways, gets the execution shot right there onto Array. And then you're going to see that because Wixie took so much damage, it feels as though they have to play really far back and isn't really able to do a whole lot of DPS. But slowly, you start realizing why this Graves build is so good. It never dies. You're constantly able to do bits of chip damage over and over again. And as we get back into it, they're chasing Concept again.
Concept just keeps finding himself in the line of fire of Immortals as they pick up their third dragon of the game. Now on Soul Point, Joey said that's a big target for me on Concept that I can hit. The response from Rosethorn does get some lockdown. ADD expelling his watch. And Immortals, though, they're the ones that came out with that kill. They're the ones with the wave coming through, so they can continue to pressure this tier 2 turret.
But at the same time, I mean, that's going to be 2 bounties that have been picked up by Young on the far side of the map. He gets the first top side, he gets the second top side, and the engage coming up from Golden Guardians. There's no real threat, so IMT don't really have to leave from this position. So small victory, I'd say, overall for Golden Guardians, even though they did lose Concept in that fight because of the amount of money as a team they got back from that last engagement because of Young's split push. Now, this is kind of their only win condition right now, Gabby, is Young on the side lane is not only going to be relatively strong with the 3 kills that they got, they're actually the richest player on the entire map, but they also need to keep on doing that. They need to be able to kill Yusui. They need to be able to take him down over in side lane so you can continue to pick up these objectives, continue to pick up some of those bounties, and buy enough time for the rest of your team to get onto items. Because you take a look at Wixie, already on 2, looking to complete their 3rd, whereas Array still hasn't picked up their Infinity Edge yet.
Yeah, and that's why Golden Guardians, it's difficult when they fall into those moments like we saw with that last previous very scrappy fight where it all starts with Joey going in for the hook and creating an opportunity for them to extend their league, where Golden Guardians are just trying to not get into it. They're saying we need to scale up, we need to get some more items into our pocket. But again, as you pointed out, Joshi, Young still managing to whittle away at that deficit that Immortals was putting them in. It was a 5.5k gold lead at one point. Now it's hovering around that 4,000 mark. Still a big one for them here, 21 minutes, but as proven, Golden Guardians know how to start breaking into that a bit.
Yeah. Are we supposed to call it the monkey bubble gold advantage? I don't feel like it. I've never heard anybody say that, but I know there are previous ones as we see. Oh, it's a CLG Challengers Rift Herald getting put down.
Ooh.
Sorry, they have had a terrible streak of just like doing that over and over again. Golden Guardians, they are going to be throwing it up in the top side where Young has been trying to create some pressure, but there's a lot of threat actually onto this Baron buff at this point because you do have a Phalius who does a ton of damage to these monsters. You also have the Rise and the Graves who will both be doing the exact same thing, and this Rift Herald doesn't look like it's going to be getting any value at all. It might grab a couple of extra CS here for Rose Thorn, but that's about it as they look for potential engage, but Joey finds it first.
Joey always finds it. Joey always sets up the kill. And who do you want to take down ahead of a major objective? The jungler. Rose Thorn down for 30 seconds. Immortals see it as an opening to focus down onto this Baron. Golden Guardians don't feel like they can make enough of a stand. Hovering around on the outside, Concept did back to be able to teleport into this. Immortals, they committed. They're now donning the purple and getting a chance to get that power even more online for themselves.
Golden Guardians, I mean, we were looking at a potential opportunity for split pushing, but look at what Golden Guardians have given up at the same time. There's a huge wave crashing into the top side turret, a wave crashing into the bottom side turret, and this has been one of the things that has been both super good for Golden Guardians and super bad for them over the past couple of weeks, right? They will give up so many waves in order to try and go for these fight contests. They drop about 4 waves effectively in order to try and make that fight happen around the Baron. It was a 4v5, right? That's the kind of thing where you need to have that fight go well in order to even recoup some of the gold that you're losing and deny it from your opponents. And it's part of why Golden Guardians have found themselves in such a big hole. And so much of it comes down to the fact that, one, Joey's been playing out of his mind. Immortals have had a great game plan throughout the early game in order to create situations where Rose Thorn has been weak. And now as they are one dragon away from closing out the Infernal Soul, I mean, Joey is already here first. They can start setting up. They can clear out some of this vision and trying to face check a Blitzcrank over a wall. I mean, Joey's been nuts with it so far.
Such good times of just setting up to get those hooks, using the ward to do so as well. Young hijacking his ultimate here, but I think that Joey is one of those supports, and it's been talked about a bit on broadcast as, all right, does go for the play, right? That's what you want to consistently see. And but in the end, Joey is one of the supports that is very happy about the direction in which the support meta is going. Loves being on engage, loves having a hook to throw around, wants to be the first to make the move for this team, and that's exactly what we're seeing as he leads the charge with Immortals taking down this mid inhibitor turret. Though, looking over at Dragon, Throw being used. Immortals are here to party. So a security by Rose Thorn arms to the Dragon, but the fight is good. Immortals get a root in return. That's 1 kill, that's 2 killed. Wixie picking up the double. Immortals, they lose 1 little dragon, but they get the inhibitor and the fight.
Yeah, I mean, getting those 2 kills afterwards is totally okay, right? Golden Guardians are so far away from the Infernal Soul, which they would need. And IMT, once again, now they're just pushing up the mid lane. I don't know if you can end right now, as Joey is still very far, but ADD can still teleport to the rest of the team. They're just going to try and end. I mean, it's only 10 seconds before Rose Thorn and Array are back up.
Concept just finished the back and is now here to match in number, coming through with the unstoppable onslaught, but the teleport for additional numbers on the Immortal side. Equalizer thrown down, some knockups thrown by Golden Guardians, and it's enough to get a chunk onto Wixie as well as ADD. Concept still going for it, and another responding equalizer. Hey, you got him on both sides, baby. Yasui getting locked up, getting knocked up.
That's his reset.
Getting did. Rosethorn putting down some damage onto ADD, and the rest is Wixie. Oh, so low, but Chad's got some damage of his own. 3 eliminated on the side of Golden Guardians as another double is picked up by Wixie. And Array can't play anymore when you have such little HP to your name. Has to just back off and let the only other remaining member of this squad, and Young, offset the rest of Immortals. But Joey says, I see you over there, Jinx. I'm still gonna take your life. Immortals setting such a tone in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was so close to being the dream fight for Golden Guardians, but it is still a win coming through for Immortals here. They walk away with a bunch more kills. They take a Nexus turret as well. And we said the one way that Golden Guardians can get back in some of these team fights is you start getting Array to reset. He starts popping off. He does a ton of damage. He was so close. Multiple members are walking away with slivers of HP, but Young is trying to find Chad here, but not going to be able to do anything. Young is still on 3 items. He does a ton of damage, but he's just not been able to hit because his front line is crumbling.
And whenever you have some like Silas that's been building up and really able to have that progress made on the side lanes, but then you're getting into these fights and there's nothing else that you can really do because of that crumbling front line. It's making Immortals look all the more powerful on these pushes that they've been able to execute. And they've had great control throughout this entire game. This would be a very different story if we had even a neutral early game, because it was so on Immortals to try to make those plays with the hooks on Blitzcrank, to try to get Chad in a position where he could be strong and really make Rosethorn on this Maokai look like even less of a threat than already. So yeah, I mean, Immortals feeling pretty good, Joshi, about how things have been going.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's really important to note, right? We were talking about how the double magic damage stackers might be an issue for Immortals, because it's so easy to just build up a little bit of magic resist and then rely on HP after that. But Rosethorn's got a Spirit Visage, right? Concept also gone with the Abyssal Mask in order to try and get all this extra magic resist, but it means that they are incredibly vulnerable to Chad and Wixie at this point. That's part of why you see Wixie, I mean, he's played a pretty decent game, but he's 8-0-7 because of how well the rest of his team has been setting up for him. Wixie has not necessarily been pressured a whole lot to make really exciting plays because the rest of his team is playing so well. And so as IMT starts going forward, we continuously have to praise how Joey has played out most of this game, see what kind of pressure he can create, and now he's on the side. He's only got one target he can hit, but hey, even Concept is probably worthwhile.
Speeding up to try to get some kind of connect, and most of Golden Guardians are keeping themselves clustered together, really leaving Concept, the largest tank on this team right now, as the one to venture forward and making sure that Prismal sticks close to the carries. But Immortals pretty confident in the way that they're able to try and set up right now along this Baron, want to get the wards down and create less avenues for Golden Guardians to bring themselves back into this.
Yeah, and IMT, they're trying to find a fight immediately. Look at Young over the wall.
On the Unstoppable coming on in. Prismal throwing down the Glacial Fissure. ADD being burned as well. Young coming out of stasis, and Concept soon to fall. They take down the mid laner on the side of Golden Guardians. The 1-for-1 trade, and now the top laner eliminated as well. Rosethorn offset by Yasui and Chad in the backline. Joey marked down low, but just looking for another opportunity to set off for the rest of the team. IMT pretty spread, but can start corralling together the remaining members of Golden Guardians.
And Golden Guardians, I mean, the fact that Array is starting to get these first kills to get excited is helping out quite a bit, but there's so many threats that he has to be aware of as these fights are breaking out. Wixie still unkilled despite all the pressure that Concept was putting onto them. And so it will be another dragon that's picked up by Golden Guardians. It helps out a little bit, but this Baron could be potentially game-ending for IMT, and it feels as though every single time Golden Guardians are doing the first part of the fight correct. They're getting the first kill down, but after that they aren't able to reestablish battle lines to allow Array to just run forward and feel safe to hit any target that they want.
And the minor advantages of those moments. The singular kill to delay a rotation to an objective, the picking up of a second dragon for themselves. While they give you a little bit of a sprinkle of hope, it's not enough to really offset what is being traded in response. And you're right, this could be the game-ending Baron play from Immortals if they continue to get up on this push. They've got a wave of supers across mid. Look how weak that tier 2 on the bot side is, so Immortals will easily be able to clean that off before granting themselves an opportunity to take more inhibs.
Yeah, and we'll see how much IMT can get from this. We were saying that the 3-item mark was the crucial mark for Golden Guardians to start feeling in the game. They have hit that for 2 of their major damage carries, but Rose Thorn and Concept still a ways away from being an effective frontline for the rest of the team because they have been melting. With Golden Guardians, it is starting to be a situation where even with this 10,000 gold deficit, if they fight a perfect fight, things can start to go their way, and so we really need to see if IMT, they should be looking to get 2 inhibitors off of this objective, and then from there, you can look to get the Infernal Soul as well. But so far, Golden Guardians, there's the engage.
And the attempt right here by Concept, but look
Great
at all that
equalizer.
burn upon the entry, and the Bramble coming across as well. ADD picking up that kill, but look at the way that Golden Guardians are at least keeping Immortals back. Can they re-engage here?
That's a reset.
Down, Array still around, has the heal to keep himself and Prismal alive all the while, but the turret was burned. Immortals, they can continue to move in across these inhibitors. They take 2 with this Baron push, have a teleport here for the additional assistance for encroaching upon 3 members of Golden Guardians. Looking to end the game here. Prismal jumping to the side of Rose Thorn. Has the shield up to break off some of this damage, but the turrets are taken. Immortals, they're keeping their eyes on this Nexus. They've got the wave with them.
Yeah, the Nexus is completely naked here. There's the equalizer. Array!
Chad going for the play. Array blasted away, and Immortals in game number 1 taken.
Great stuff coming through from Immortals. They had an early game plan, and even with some minor stumbles, it never felt as though they were not in control of the game from the very beginning. Great invades coming through from Chad, putting Rose Thorn behind, and just the pressure. It feels like Joey is playing on fire right now, has really developed so far throughout the course of the regular season, and we'll see if that's going to be something that can continue, because they really need to find one more win in order to upset the 5th seed going into the tournament.
We are in the elimination portion of this bracket, so all of the wins matter all the more. More gameplay to come, though, in this series as we kick it to a break. We'll see you on the other side.